Good morning. I'm Christy Webster and welcome to my garage. But I hope that we will be able to share some tips and tricks in putting our holiday greens together. Let's get started. First thing is paddle wire. Paddle wire comes in different colors and it comes in different thicknesses. The thickness is the gauge. I like to use 24 or 26 when I'm making a wreath or a swag. I like to use pipe cleaners when I'm attaching a wreath or a swag outside in the cold, and it really saves on my fingers. I also use it when I'm making a bow. And I should mention a good pair of clippers and a good pair of scissors. Ribbon for making bows. My goodness, ribbon comes in all different kinds of patterns now, and most of it comes with a wired edge, so making a bow is so much easier than it used to be. Design Master Glossy Wood Tone is just the most wonderful thing to freshen up an old wreath. I also like to use floral tape. Floral tape, like paddle wire, comes in different colors and different thicknesses. I like to use 1/2-inch green floral tape, and I use it on swags to finish off the ends. I sometimes use some floral picks. I use them to attach bows or pine cones in an arrangement. There are many different wreath frames that you can find. Probably one you'll have the easiest time finding is the 3 or 4 wired frame. It's sort of curved. Circle, candy cane, square. Let's take a look at some greens you may have growing in your own backyard. If we were together, we could pass these around so you could actually feel them and smell them. The first is hemlock. Hemlock is a green that I only use outside for swags and for arrangements that are going to stay outside. It dries out quite easily and then sheds, but it's fine outside. The bonus, it has these sweet little pine cones on it. Next, we have spruce. I have an abundance of spruce in my yard, so I use it a lot for both arrangements and swags. Blue spruce, the only difference we have is the tips of it are, of course, blue-green. Next, we have white pine. White pine is what you see a lot in pine roping that you buy at the store. It's soft, it's a brighter green, and much longer needles. Arborvitae. I like it. I like to use it as a completely different texture, and I like that it's lime green. One of my favorite things to use is winterberry. These bright red berries are wonderful, pop a color in any arrangement. A bonus is that the robins love them in the late winter, so they'll come and feed on them. If you're going to grow winterberry, you need to make sure that you have both a male and female plant. They're marked that way in the nursery. You only need 1 male, and you can have 4 or 5 females. Curly willow is a nice thing to add to an arrangement. Next, we have 2 more of my favorites, red twig dogwood and yellow twig dogwood. The color of these two, and especially together, is striking. Back here we have some boxwood. Boxwood has been used for holiday arrangements forever. It holds up well. It makes great wreaths. It also makes little boxwood trees. You can use it. Here's a little specialty green. This is false cypress, Canisiferous. It is dark green, and it has almost a swirl growth pattern. Parsons juniper. This is a variegated green that has sort of a creamy tip. Sherwood forest arborvitae, same lovely texture as a regular arborvitae, but this particular one has a creamy tip. We also have some different hollies. The first one is a Japanese holly that looks a lot like a boxwood. The leaf is just a little bit bigger and maybe a little more cupped. Next, regular holly. And like winterberry, if you're going to grow this and you want the berries, you need to have both male and female plants. Variegated holly, check the edges of this leaf, just the creamy edge of the holly. Let's take a second look at these. Remember, when you are cutting your own greens, your greens are going to be so much fresher than the ones you would buy at a nursery, because who knows when those have been cut. For our first demonstration, let's make a wreath. We're going to wire onto a double wire frame. I'm going to attach my paddle wire first, and I'm going to wire on a bundle of spruce. I'm going to go around the bundle several times, probably 4 or 5 times to make it nice and secure. I like to vary my greens as I'm putting them on. So the next bundle I'm going to put on is a juniper. Having your bundles made ahead of time so that you just have to pick them up and go to the next bundle. Here we have another bundle of spruce. The other tip I would give you is be generous with your bundles, and show you a finished wreath that was made from the Canocypris and the lime green arborvitae. I've also added some pine cones. I might also want to add a bow to my wreath. And there I have a finished wreath that smells great. The next thing we're going to demonstrate is a swag. I tend to make lots of swags because they are just so versatile, and I can use them all different places: on fence posts, on a lamp post, on my mailbox, on my front door. There's lots of ways to use a swag. I'm going to start with some spruce, wire that together. Again, I'm not going to cut the wire in between layering on the different types of greens. Get that nice and secure. My next layer I'm going to put on, and again, I also have everything pre-cut right here ready to go, so I'm not fumbling around trying to figure out what I'm going to do next. I'm going to put on some holly, and I want a little more red, so I'm going to put on just one spray of winterberry. And I like to have different colors and different textures. The last thing I'm going to put on is some lime green arborvitae, and I wire it together nice and tight. Spread the arborvitae out. Then, just to make it even more secure, I'm going to use that floral tape that I had talked about earlier to make it easier for me, because I have my hands full. A nice handle, and making the top of my swag even more secure. If I need to, these ends at the top, if I want them nice and even, I can go back and cut them. The only other thing I think I will do is add a bow. My swag is done. For our next demonstration, if you haven't already dumped all of your summer containers, if you want to go ahead and take the annuals out and leave the soil in, you can take your container and make it into a winter container. This one just has soil in the bottom. I'm not going to use any sort of oasis or styrofoam, and I'm just going to fill it with all kinds of greens. Remember, when you're using annuals in the summer and making an arrangement in a container, they always say to make a thrill, a fill, and a spill. Matter a bit. It's a good place to use the hemlock, because this is going to stay outside. It'll stay green for a very, very long time. I want some variation, so I'm going to put in arborvitae again. The lime green foliage always looks great. Filling in the center. And I'm going to add some winterberry on each side. Some of the yellow twig dogwood also in the center. You turn your container so you can see it from all sides to make sure it's really nice and full. I also have some pine cones that I drilled a little hole in the bottom of the pine cone, and using some hot glue, put a dowel in the pine cone. And you can see the finished container. Just turn it around. Put it outside, forget it, you don't have to water it, it'll be fine. Enjoy it all winter. One of the things a lot of people have trouble making is a bow. And again, with the ribbon that we buy today with a wire edge, it's more simple than ever. And for a nice big bow, you're going to need between 3 and 5 yards. You're pinching it with your non-dominant hand, so my left hand. I'm doing a half a twist and pinching it. I'm always doing a half a turn, making my loops, and I want to make my loops about the same size, going from left to right. And it is totally up to you how many loops you put on. It could be 3 loops on each side, but an even number on each side. Now take my pipe cleaner, find the middle of it by folding it in half, putting it through the center, bringing it around back, and twisting. Fluff up each side, and my bow is ready to use. This pinecone wreath belongs to a friend of mine. Someone in her family made it for her in the 1980s. I think it could use a little sprucing up. Put the wreath down inside the spray box and give it a spray. I'm only going to do a little bit because we are inside of a garage. I don't want to lift it up until it's dry, but I think I wanted to show you the pinecone wreath now that it's really been thoroughly sprayed and thoroughly dried. I think it's good for another 40 years. I think it looks really beautiful. Keeping a folder for ideas that you find in catalogs and magazines is always a good idea. I made a small display out of some of the things I thought I'd like to try this year. Let's take a look at some of our finished projects. Here I've added our swags that we made onto an old pair of skis, a sled, even a snowshoe. We have our wreath and our container, all ready to put out and enjoy throughout the holiday season. Thank you for joining us today.